Hey y'all, it's Kay from the Literary Apothecary and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about my September reading wrap up and my October TBR. I can't believe we're already into October. Like, what happened to this month? Or this year, this last month? September just flew by. It was a really busy month for me with work, but somehow I still got in 11 books finished and 1 DNF. I think maybe because a few of these were novellas for our Sphinx competition, but in these 11 reads, I had 3 that were 5 stars, 3 that were 4.5 stars, 1 4-star, 2 3.5 stars, and 2 3 stars. So a good kind of smattering, a good spread of different ratings. My favorite book that I read in September was The Hexologist by Josiah Bancroft. This is book 1 in his new series, The Hexologist. I absolutely loved everything about this book, and I need a carpetbag dragon in my life. But The Hexologist was followed really close in second place by Shattered Spirits by Cal Black. I loved this book so much. I'll talk about more in just a minute about that book, but y'all, that novella was so good. So the books that I did finish in September include A Declaration of the Rights of Magicians by H.G. Parys. Y'all, I finally finished it. I had been reading that book for 2 months it took me, and I finally finished it. I enjoyed it so much. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I loved that book so much, and I have one spoiler-free reading quote for you from A Declaration of the Rights of Magicians. That title is a mouthful. Our quote says, "You'll realize that fear is the most dangerous obstacle to reform that there is." And I felt like that quote just set the tone for the entire book perfectly. The next book that I finished was Labyrinth's Heart by M.A. Carrick. This one I gave 4.5 out of 5 stars. This is the final book in the Rook and Rose series, and I did a full series review for this series. I will link that in the description below. I loved this so much, but it felt like, to me, 2 really amazing books smashed into one. Like, they were trying so hard to stick to that trilogy format, and just took away a little bit for me. My rating quote from Labyrinth's Heart says, "The breath-stealing sense of finding someone who could look at you, at all of you, sins and all, and still hold out their hand." And to find that moment in life with that one person or people, if you're that fortunate, is just an incredible feeling, and I related to that so much. Our next book up, we have Path of Daggers by Robert Jordan. This was book 8 in the Wheel of Time series. This one I gave 3 out of 5 stars. This is one of my least favorite books in this series. After that, we've got Little White Hands by Mark Cushion. This one I gave 3 out of 5 stars as well. It was a good book, but it wasn't great, I don't think, in my opinion. This was one of my self-pub Sunday books. Next up, we have Thrice by Andrew Meredith, also 3 stars. Also another self-pub Sunday book. And the next book up is, of course, my favorite book of September that I read. That's The Hexologist by Josiah Bancroft. This one I gave 5 out of 5 stars. I read the arc for this, but I finished it literally like the morning that it was supposed to be released. So I finished it just in time to get that arc review up. And I've got 2 quotes from this book because I couldn't just stop at one for Josiah Bancroft's writing. "People who tell you not to be afraid of things are usually the first to get eaten by tigers. Fear helps us to prepare. I say, gather your supplies, arm yourself, and make the dark afraid of you." And the second quote I have is perfect for October and Halloween and spooky season. And that is, "You can't spell necromancy without romance." And that made me laugh so much. It just gives you an idea of the quirky writing style that Josiah Bancroft has. After that, we have my 1 DNF for the month, and that was The Orchard Keeper by Cormac McCarthy, which is really weird. I love most Cormac McCarthy books I've read, but this one, I don't think I had the right mindset for it. The right concentration level. I just couldn't follow the characters or the storyline at all, and so I had to just give it the axe and DNF it. After that, I finished Silhouette in the Shadow, which I gave 4.5 out of 5 stars. This is by Delaney Andrews, and this is another one of my Self-Pub Sunday books for September. I absolutely love this. This is like a coming-of-age superhero story, and it was so much fun. My quote from Silhouette in the Shadow says, "Sincerely hoping Bane drove a car big enough to stow all the emotional baggage that brought us together." And that just gives you an idea of the fun, dysfunctional family that is in Silhouette in the Shadow. And just a couple more books left. I finished Shattered Spirits, like I said, by Cal Black. This is my second favorite read of September. I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars. It was an easy 5-star for me. And so far, this is the one in the lead for Sphinx for the novels that I've read so far. This was the first novella that I've read for that competition, and I loved everything about it. It was super, super spooky, and the characters were great, the storytelling was great, the pacing was on point, just everything about it was done so well. It was well polished, and I cannot stop talking about it. If you need a good spooky book, a short spooky book for October and Halloween reads, I highly, highly recommend Shattered Spirits. I think the full title is Shattered Spirits, The Fall of Ishkarn by Cal Black. You will not regret it. It is so good. Finished Summer Night by Jim Butcher, which is the 4th book in the Dresden Files series. I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars. Of course, I absolutely love this series so much. It's become a new favorite series to me, and thank you to Leslie at The Nerdy Narrative, my bestie, for introducing me to this series, because I love it so much, and it's a great palate cleanser for me with some of these heavier fantasy reads. In the Lab of Love by Melissa Bobe, this was my second novella I read for Sphinx. I gave this one 4.5 out of 5 stars. I really loved it. Another great read for October, because this deals with witches and conspiracies and brewing true love in a science lab. It was really, really great. But it felt like the ending was a little bit rushed for me, so that's why I gave it 4.5 and not 5 stars. Next up, I finished Shattered Magic by Emily Hoffman. This was the 3rd novella for the Sphinx competition. This one I gave 3.5 out of 5 stars. I thought it was written, fairly well, but it felt like it was rushed in terms of both the plot and the characters. The characters felt a bit distant from me, like I couldn't get to know any one character in particular, which I like to do in my books. I like to feel connected to those characters so I can feel their fears and their pain and their anxiety and their happiness and all of the emotions. And then the last book that I finished in September was technically part of the trilogy, the Star Wars trilogy. I finished A New Hope. I gave that one 4.5 out of 5 stars. I loved that one more than I thought I would. And now I'm on to The Empire Strikes Back. So, which is a great segue into my carryovers. So those were the books that I finished in September. The books that I'm carrying over from September into October include the Star Wars trilogy, which A New Hope and The Empire Strikes Back is part of. It's the novelization of the first 3 Star Wars movies, and I'm enjoying this so much. Seeing these movies in this format has been really great. I am continuing on with Winter's Heart by Robert Jordan. This was book 9 in the Wheel of Time series, and I am definitely enjoying this one more than The Path's Dagger. And I can't wait to see where this book goes. I think I'm about 50 or 60% on in this book, and I am enjoying it much more. The Return of the Knights by Gregory Contaxis, I think is how you say his name. This one is another fantasy book that I am reading and carrying over into October. I'm enjoying this a lot. It's sitting at a 4-star rating for me right now, but we'll see once I finish it where that rating sits. Now, books that I'll be reading in October. Let's talk about my October TBR. It's a big one. Even though I felt like I've been scaling back, somehow October kind of exploded. So I'll be reading Clean Install by R.Z. Held. I'm actually currently in the middle of this one. This is the 4th novella I'm reading for the Sphinx competition, and I hope to actually finish that either today or tomorrow. Crossroads of Twilights. This is book 10 in the Wheel of Time series. Once I finish up Winter's Heart, I might slide right into that. I might take a short break. We'll see how I feel at the end of Winter's Heart. And then October is my kind of Daniel Barnett reading month. I hope to get through as much of the Nightmareland Chronicles as I can in October, and I will probably, as long as I like them, finish up the rest of that whole series in November. So, and then I might try to squeeze in my Hungry Friend too. Daniel Barnett will be on the channel hopefully later this month for Self Pub Sunday, and I can't wait to talk about him. It's going to be the perfect month for it because he writes horror. He's a good friend of Leslie's, and she loves his books so much, and I've been meaning to get around to his books forever, and this is the perfect reading month for that. So y'all get a lot of spooky updates from me for October. The other novellas that I will be reading for the Sphinx competition, I'm still hoping to go by one novella per week till the end of round 1. I've got lined up for October. In addition to Clean Install, we've got The Chase Begins by Amy Donnellan, Servant of a Pale Sword by Tim Akers, Solace of Memory by Allegra Pescatori, and Nayari, The Traveler of the Circle by Noor Al-Shanti. Some other books that I hope to squeeze in October because we have that extra 31st day in the month. Weird Sisters by Terry Pratchett. I'm just going to keep this in my TBR until I actually get to it. And the same with Solace by Gail Carrington. I'm just going to keep those 2 books on my TBRs until I can actually read them. And then the last reading on my TBR is one that I've actually got finished now. I did that on the very first day of October. That's our Joan Didion essay of the month, The Getty. So that's my September wrap up, my October TBR. If you've read any of the books I've read in September, let me know what you thought of them in the comments below. And if you've read any of the books on my October TBR, let me know where I should start next for October. As always, my Patreon and my Discord information will be in the description below. Keep reading, and I love y'all to the moon and back. Bye.